السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. In this lecture we are going to discuss the research problem, which means that the statement of the research problem, and we will come and see what does the statement of the research problem means and the content of this section. Then we are going to have the justification, which is another title in the manuscript following the statement of the research problem. And then we are going to discuss the objectives of the research. We are going to learn how to compose each section of these sections. We had in the previous lectures how to formulate the title, how to write the introduction of your research in the proposal, and how to write the literature review. Okay, so we will start with the research problem, how to write this section and the contents of the statement of the research problem. This section is a paragraph consisting of 3 parts. يعني the statement of the research problem هو heading in the proposal composed of only a single paragraph that contains the following parts. Okay? The statement of the research problem should contain at first the definition of the problem or the definition of your research topic. Okay? Then it should contain the size of the problem or the size of your study topic. Okay? Then it should contain the impact of this problem or of this topic on community or worldwide. Okay? يعني each statement of research problem should contain these 3 parts. It should contain the definition of your study or your problem, the size of this problem or of this study, and the impact of this problem. When we formulate these 3 parts, we compose a paragraph called the statement of research problem. طيب, we are going to have an example in order to make it clear for each one of you in order to formulate your own statement of research problem. If we have this following study titled Prediction of COVID-19 Mortality Among Sudanese Hospitalized Patients 2021. We have this title or we have this study and we want to formulate the statement of research problem. At first, we begin with definition. We define our problem or our research topic, just like we said in the first part. COVID-19 is a viral infection caused by RNA virus affecting the whole body, especially the respiratory system. Okay? بعد ده جيت قلت شنو؟ This infection affected populations worldwide and is called a pandemic in 2019 due to the wide spread of it. So in this first part, we defined the problem. تمام. Then we came and continued. We said that this infection led to serious health issues and even death. This is the second part. Mortality, then we said mortality rates from COVID-19 are rising in Sudan and around the world. تمام. These sentences I put them in such paragraph to define the statement of the research problem. Okay, where did I get this يعني كلام ده from my reading of the previous published papers and formulating my introduction and literature review بقى عندي a full idea about my research topic أو about my problem. فبتجي انت in the statement of the research problem you formulate such paragraph using your own words or no references are needed in this section. Just يعني use your language to describe your study. Okay, based on your knowledge اللي هي انت already اكتسبتها by reading and reviewing the previously published papers. تمام. طيب نحن عايزين نشوف نحن how did we formulate this statement of research problem. We said that we يعني include 3 parts in the statement of the research problem in order to properly formulate this paragraph. طيب نرجع نشوف the first part كان required هو definition of the problem. Okay, قمنا in this statement we started by defining the COVID-19 infection. قلنا here is a viral infection caused by RNA virus affecting the whole body especially the respiratory system. كده أنا عملت definition لماي problem اللي هي أنا عايز أدرسها. أنا عايز أدرس الكوفيد 19 وداير أدرس المورتاليتي ريت حقها among hospitalized patients. طيب عملت my general definition. جيت بعد ذاك داير أعمل the rest of the statement of the research problem. بجي the second part قلنا define the size of the problem. Okay, أجي تاني in another sentence أقول describe the size of the problem. وزي in this example قلنا شنو this infection affected populations worldwide and is called pandemic in 2019 due to the wide spread of it. طيب هنا أنا I described the size of the problem أو the size of the topic I'm studying. تمام. قلت هي affecting يعني many populations worldwide and has wide spread. تمام. اوكي اجي تاني في الستيتمنت of the research problem اكتب شنو. ارجع لي معاي 3 parts. The third part is the impact of the problem يعني the effect of this problem on your health system أو community أو whatever اللي هو على حسب your study. تمام. جيت قلت this infection led to serious health issues and even death. ده أنا حسي هنا I'm describing the impact of this problem. And I came and continue saying that mortality rates from COVID-19 are rising in Sudan and around the world. This final sentence أو كده describe the impact of the problem. يلا once I formulate all these 3 parts I combine them in a paragraph and call it statement of the research problem. تمام. اللي هي في الآخر هيجينا this paragraph. تمام. Now we come to the second part اللي هو the title following the statement of the research problem. It's called rationale and justification اللي هو justification of the research اللي هو why are you doing this research, justify the reason. okay يلا this part اللي هو برضو different heading following the statement of the research problem. In this section we compose it as a single paragraph just like we did in the statement of the research problem. وبكون عبارة عن برضو single paragraph just like the previous section، لكن بيكون composed of many parts. يعني الباراجراف دي فيها many sentences, each sentence describing a specific part. تمام. طيب what do we write in the justification? We knew what do we write in the statement of the research problem. Just like we said, we write the definition of the problem, the size of the problem, and the impact of the problem. طيب in the justification what do we write? Justification of the research contains the following three parts. لازم this paragraph that you put in the justification heading should contain أو should include أو should يعني describe these three issues. The first thing is the purpose of the research, the purpose of your research. Okay. The second part is the gaps in the research area. تمام. And the third part is the benefit of the research. وكلهم كده will answer يعني why أو you will justify why are you doing this research. تمام. That's why it's called justification of the research. تمام. خلاص. We compose this heading أو this section by اللي هو defining these three parts أو by writing these three parts and formulating them in sentences, formulating a paragraph. تمام. طيب example, if we have this following study about knowledge, attitude, and practice of clinical pharmacists about contrast-induced nephropathy, Khartoum 2020. We have this study and titled as we just said. طيب for such study, after we do our introduction, literature review, and so on, and the statement of the research problem, we come to the justification of the research. طيب we want to write the justification of the research. What do? We come and revise these three parts that must be included in the justification اللي هما the first thing the purpose of the research, the second thing is the gaps in the research area, and the third thing is the benefit of the research. Okay, come and read this. طيب in this study we justify or we describe the justification of the research as follows. We said that assessment of knowledge, attitude, and practice of clinical pharmacists about contrast-induced nephropathy at the state of Khartoum is an important issue to discuss. Okay, then we came and say clinical pharmacists are considered an important part of healthcare team, especially when dealing with medications that need special consideration. تمام. تاني we added that to our knowledge no such study had been done in Khartoum state, and to our knowledge means that after we did our literature search فتشنا في PubMed the related papers وكده ما لقينا paper published about this issue in Khartoum state. تمام، اللي هو ده هنا ده الجاب in knowledge، أنه والله في دراسات عن contrast induced nephropathy and so on، لكن ما في دراسات إذا عملت in Khartoum state، أو على حسب your topic تشوف الجاب وين. Then we came and say that this research will help improving science and identifying the status of clinical pharmacists with regards to use of contrast media. تمام؟ كده أنا I formulated the section that is called justification of the research. تمام؟ كيف أنا أتأكد أني عملته بالطريقة الصحيحة؟ I just follow these 3 tips اللي هو أو the 3 parts that should be fulfilled or mentioned in the justification، اللي هي أول شي the purpose of the research، تاني the gaps in the research، وتالت هو ال benefit of the research. طيب نجي نشوف نحن عملنا الحاجات دي هنا ولا لا in this previous justification of the research. نجي نشوف البارتس الثلاثة دي مذكورة ولا لا. طيب the first part نحن كتبناه في justification، كتبنا أنه assessment of knowledge attitude and practice of clinical pharmacists about contrast induced nephropathy at the state of Khartoum is important. تمام؟ the purpose of my research أنه أصلا داير أعمل this assessment of attitude and practice. تمام؟ وجيت قلت أنه clinical pharmacists are considered an important part of healthcare team, especially when dealing with medications that need special consideration. تمام؟ This first part I explained the purpose of my research. أنا عايز أعمل research ده لشنو؟ عايز أعمل knowledge of pharmacists، داير أعمله في knowledge وعايز أعمله على pharmacists. ليش؟ لأنه قلنا pharmacists are important healthcare workers. تمام؟ أوكي كده خلاص عملت the first section of the justification اللي هو قلنا ال purpose of the research. طيب the second part that should be included in the justification هو زي ما قلنا the gap in knowledge. نرجع هنا اللي هم ديل 3 parts ديل. the first part هو ال purpose وزي ما شفنا مذكور. the second part is the gaps in the research area. طيب نجي نرجع لأول justification لأول paragraph دي. تمام؟ اللي هي هنا بس فصلناها عشان تكون واضحة. طيب قلنا to our knowledge no such study had been done in Khartoum state. كده أنا I explain the gaps in the area أو in the researches done in this area. تمام؟ مثلا your study لقيت أنه والله أنه لقيت في دراسات في الخرطوم ستيت وأي شيء، لكن لقيت دراسات على أطباء مثلا for example ما على pharmacists. كده أنت هتقوم تقول شنو to our knowledge أنه والله clinical pharmacists were not studied before in Khartoum state. تمام؟ ده هنا this is your gap. تمام؟ اللي هو based on your study topic و based on the published papers before تشوف أنه الجاب وين، لأنه لازم your study should add to knowledge زي ما قلنا not to be just a repetition of previously published papers. تمام؟ طيب نجي لي the third part in the justification نشوف هو مذكور in this paragraph or not. طيب third part بعد الجابس in knowledge كان شنو؟ كان the benefit of the research. okay اللي هو in this paragraph of justification نشوف نحن هل كتبنا the benefit of the research or not. طيب نحن كتبنا الجابس in knowledge لغاية ما قلنا to our knowledge أنه in Khartoum state there is no such study. طيب نحن وقفنا هنا تاني أضفنا أنه we said that this research will help improving science and identifying the status of clinical pharmacists with regards to the use of contrast media. تمام. ده هنا أنا I mentioned the benefits of my research. يعني my research هيخدم المجتمع، وده المجتمع ككل أو المجتمع الطبي أو addition to knowledge أو change of practice. المهم the benefit of my research هي شنو؟ I mentioned the benefit of my research. جينا والله this third part مكتوب كده، معناته this justification paragraph is well detailed and acceptable. تمام. وانتو بعدين in your researches you will follow these same steps to write your justification of the research. تمام. It's just a simple paragraph like this one and should contain the three parts we just mentioned اللي هما these three parts and formulate them in sentences. ما شكل points أو bullets, no, in sentences. Or these sentences are put in a paragraph just like this paragraph composed of these sentences and containing all the three parts of the justification. Okay. This is the second part اللي هو the justification of the research. The part before it was the statement of the research problem, and all these parts gonna come after the introduction and the literature review. تمام. You write it in your own words based on your knowledge، والknowledge دي انت اصلا اخدتها when you read the previously published papers اللي هم نحن أصلا نزلناهم عشان نكتب منهم the introduction and the literature review. نحن من قرينا الكلام ده we acquired knowledge about our topic، وبعد ذاك جينا عملنا the statement of the research problem based of the knowledge that we have. We formulated the paragraph according to the requirements, the three requirements. وتاني برضو جينا للjustification اللي هو بعد statement of the research problem، وكتبناه برضو based on our knowledge وبالطريقة المطلوبة. اوكي. هنجي ل a third part after the justification is the research objectives. The research objectives. طيب, what do we mean by the research objectives? Research objectives are the aims and targets that you want to achieve in your study. يعني هو outcome اللي انت عايز تصل له. The aims and targets that you want to achieve in your research هم ديل your research objectives. Okay? طيب, these research objectives or these aims and targets we mention them in our proposal. تمام. We have a section called research objectives that comes after the section of the justification. Okay, in this section اللي هو objectives of the research we write our aims and targets، وبرضو عندنا specific way to write them. The objectives should be smart. Smart meaning that should be specific, measurable, agreed, realistic and time bound. تمام. specific. تمام. اللي هو each objective should be a target for a specific part or a specific issue in the research ما حاجة بس كده عمومية ما مفهومة أو كده. and it should be measurable، ما حاجة cannot be measured أو حاجة يعني unrealistic. تمام. should be agreed اللي هو متفق عليها between the researchers in the research team، يعني بيناتكم كلكم تكونوا موافقين على these objectives، و with your supervisor برضو أو كده. يعني among the whole research team these objectives should be agreed on، لأن دي انتوا الحاجات اللي انتوا عايزين تعملوا لها assessment and achievement. يعني دي ال objectives of your study، دي your study، دي ال study itself يعني. تمام. تاني there should be realistic، ما تكون حاجة ما بتتعمل. تمام. أو ما في ليها مثلا الإمكانيات المطلوبة، أو ما عندكم ليها المؤهلات المطلوبة. يعني مثلا students like you اللي هم undergraduates لو جو قال لي نحن عايزين نعمل a clinical trial، دي حاجة unrealistic. Why? Because you are not qualified to do such huge studies. تمام. لازم الحاجة تكون realistic. تمام. based on your resources، based on your qualifications. تمام. and should be time bound يعني شنو؟ يعني مثلا if you have اللي هو a complementary research زي اللي انتوا بتعملوه مثلا في سنة 5. تمام. and this research should be submitted by the end of the academic year. اوكي. تقوم تقدم لي proposal فيه اللي هو a study فيها follow up للpatients مثلا for 5 years، حتى بعد ذاك تيجي تعمل assessment للoutcome وتكتب your results. ده هيكون هنا a time is not suitable for your research. ليه؟ لأنه أنت you are time bound للأكاديميك year بتاعتك. لازم your research يكون بيخلص within this time that you have been provided. قال لك سلم الريسيرش شهر 10 تعمل research that can be finished by October. تمام. لازم يكون time bound. تمام. لازم الأوبجكتيفز تكون time bound، ما تكون في objectives بتاخد time more than the specified time of the study of the research that you should مثلا submit. okay. طيب the research objectives are written in the form of points. لأنه in the previous 2 sections اللي هو the statement of the research problem و the justification of the research we wrote these sections as a paragraph, as sentences in a paragraph. لما نجي للobjectives we write them in the form of points اللي هو الbullets دي. تمام. each point describes an objective. تمام. يعني كل objective should be mentioned in a point. تمام. containing اللي هو sentence describing the objective. تمام. يعني the objectives are not written as a paragraph like the previous 2 sections. No, they are written as points. طيب the objectives are divided into 2 parts. الobjectives ذاتهم are divided into 2 parts. The first part is called general objective أو primary objective. تمام. يعني الهيدنج بتاع الobjectives فيه subheading فيه 2 subheadings اللي هو the general أو the primary objective و the second part اللي هو second subheading هو the specific objectives أو the secondary objectives. Okay, we will come and discuss each part of these objectives. تمام، نشوف بنكتب in each objectives what do we write. طيب this is first part is the general objective أو اللي هو the primary objective. هنا العنوان ناقص معلش. this is the general objective اللي هو قلنا the first subheading of the objectives هو a general objective أو primary objective. تمام. this is the main purpose of the study. تمام، اللي هو the outcome that you want to achieve. تمام، the main outcome or the main purpose of the study, this is called the primary or the general objective. The general objective is always one objective. تمام، هو دايما one objective single objective. ما في general objective بيكون فيه كم objective. لا one objective اللي هو the main outcome that you want to achieve or the main purpose of your study. تمام. يلا to write such objective we use comprehensive verbs اللي هو verbs بتكون شاملة أو واسعة. تمام، يعني مثلا for example we use to study. تمام، to study and بعد ذاك نكتب الobjective. يعني الobjectives are written in the form of verbs زي دي to do اللي هو مثلا to study, to explore, to define كده. تمام، و written as points. After the general objective we have the second subheading. معلش هو the second رقم 1 مكتوب غلط، اللي هما the specific objectives أو the secondary objectives، وديل they come after the general objective. تمام، وبرضه هما written as points، ودي ممكن نكتبهم بترقيم، ممكن نقول 1 2 3 أو في شكل bullets. المهم هما في شكل points. تمام، وبرضه بنكتبهم in اللي هو in verbs. we starts with verbs اللي هو to do أو to كده. okay، يلا in these specific objectives what do we write or what do we discuss? We write the details and the steps to get to the general objectives. تمام، يعني specific general objective اللي هو قلنا specific objectives ديل هما من اسمهم هم more than one objective، ما زي a general objective. تمام، اللي هو داك single objective. هنا هم عبارة عن the details أو the steps that you are going to conduct in order to achieve the main outcome أو to achieve the primary objective. تمام. Specific objectives are generally 3. دايما بيكونوا around 3. تمام، maximum 4 objectives ما أكتر من كده. تمام، يلا they involve the following. أول شي they should define the study population. يعني they generally هم بيكون one of the objectives بيكون describing أو defining the study population اللي هو مثلا the demographic characteristics of the patients ولا of the pharmacists أو مثلا the characteristics of the henna leaves for example لو نحن studying herbal medicine or so on. دايما بتكون the first objective في specific objectives هو descriptively اللي هو your population أو your study subjects. okay. The second specific objective generally بكون describing the variables to be assessed. مثلا the purpose بتاعنا هو assessment of knowledge and practice and attitude مثلا. معناته the second specific objective دايما بيكون studying these purposes. Okay, and then the third objective هو assessing the association between the study variables. تمام، ودي ما حاجة ثابتة، دي يعني according to your study the specific objectives differ from one study to another. المهم هم دايما بيكونوا عبارة عن 3 objectives describing the steps that you are going to do to get to the primary objective. تمام. We use more specific verbs. نحن قلنا في general objective بنستعمل comprehensive verbs زي to study. تمام، verb شامل. لكن في specific objectives we use more specific verbs زي شنو؟ to determine, to assess, to evaluate and so on. تمام، لأنه قلنا الobjectives كلها whether they are general or specific بتبدأ بشكل verb زي ده اللي هو to do, to study, to كده. اوكي، طيب نحن عرفنا these guidelines وعرفنا بنكتب الobjectives كيف وبنستخدم which words وبنكتبها في شكل points based on our study. وعرفنا general objective هو ال primary objective اللي هو the main target that we want to achieve أو the main outcome that we want to study. خلاص، وعرفنا specific objectives are more than one وبكونوا دايما details of your study. تمام، عايزين نشوف example أنه how to apply this. If we have this study titled Knowledge, Attitude and Practice of Clinical Pharmacists about Contrast-Induced Nephropathy خرطوم 2020. طيب general objective for such study هيكون شنو؟ تمام، أول شيء هيكون في شكل point هادو كده زي البوليت ده كده، وبيبدأ دايما قلنا بوايد verb أو comprehensive verb اللي هو هيكون شنو؟ to study. تمام، to study شنو قلنا؟ هو دايما بيكون the main outcome عايزين نحنا ندرسه اللي هو هيكون to study the knowledge, attitude and practice of clinical pharmacists about contrast-induced nephropathy at خرطوم 2020. تمام، يعني دايما general objective ده أو يعني usually هو بكون عبارة عن your title. ما هو your title ده هو the study that you want to achieve اللي هو your main purpose أو your main outcome. تمام، ففي الحالة دي general objective بيكون كتابته سهلة بس بيدخل to study كده وبعديها the title that you want to study. تمام، دي كده الجنرال objective نحنا كتبناه، وقلنا دايما بيكون single objective اللي هو بيكون the main outcome. اوكي، طيب نشوف هنكتب ال specific objectives كيف. قلنا ال specific objectives ديل هم عبارة عن objectives بنكتبهم بعد الجنرال objective وبكونوا عبارة عن details of the steps that I will do to achieve my main objective. صح؟ طيب قلنا ممكن ناخدهم في شكل bullets أو في شكل numbers بس المهم يكونوا في شكل points. تمام، طيب يلا we come to write our specific objectives زي ما قلنا هي points أو أرقام. طيب the first objective دايما قلنا في ال specific objectives بيكون عبارة عن description of your subjects أو your study population. تمام، يلا in this case هما clinical pharmacists هيقوم يبقى لنا the first specific objective هيكون to determine تمام the demographic characteristics of the clinical pharmacists. تمام. طيب the second objective قلنا فيه description لل purpose of our study هيقوم يكون شنو to assess the awareness of clinical pharmacists about contrast induced nephropathy. تمام اللي هي دي الحاجة that we want to study. تمام أو the purpose. خلاص بعد ذاك the third objective في الحالة دي هيكون to assess the association between the awareness of clinical pharmacists and their مثلا level of education and years of experience أو whatever that you are studying أو whatever that you want to achieve أو you want to study. تمام يعني specific objectives ديل دايما depend on your study and depend on your aims that you want يعني to achieve. تمام يعني ما دايما بيكون حاجات ثابتة أو كده لكن the general objective يعني usually بيكون عبارة عن your study title بس using a wide verb اللي هو زي to study. اوكي ودايما قلنا the specific objectives come after the general objective وبكونوا more than one وusually بكونوا زي 3 objectives. تمام يلا we will develop the statement of the research problem for your study اللي هو we are continuing to formulate the sections of the proposal اللي هو the section following the introduction and the literature review هو the statement of the research problem وشوفنا بنعملها كيف. okay you should develop your own statement of the research problem for your study. تمام then you should develop the justification and rationale of the study اللي هو the heading following the statement of the research problem وشوفنا برضو بيعملوه كيف. after that you should develop your objectives your research objectives وقلنا objectives are 2 parts. the first part هو general objective و the second part هما specific objectives. تمام وشوفنا بنكتب each part of these sections بنكتبه كيف. تمام اللي هو the statement of the research problem قلنا بنكتبه بشكل paragraph و the justification برضو بنكتبه بشكل paragraph لكن لما نجي للobjectives بنكتبها في شكل points. تمام في شكل points والجنرال بيكون single objective والspecific بيكونوا اللي هو around 3 specific objectives based on your study. تمام I hope this simplifies these sections so good luck and thank you.